9. You are witnessing a skyline shot of the Colombo port taken from the rooftop of the News First Center in Colombo.
It's 6:30 p.m. in Iran.
It's 11:30 a.m. in Tehran, USA.
And it's 9 p.m. here in Sri Lanka.
This is Primetime News on News First. I am Shamir Rasoldin.
And I'm Mahina Bongzo.
Take a look at our top stories. We have the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani's comments after taking oaths as the president. The world reacts.
Yes, Shamir, of course, we have the details coming up on the News First International Desk. But before that, here's a look at the stories making headlines tonight.
Headlines on News First at 9.
President declares open the first phase of the Colombo Port Expansion Project.
They are city to take legal action against Harin Fernando.
Over 2,000 people in the Norelia district affected by inclement weather.
CBSL prepares for latest issue of treasury bonds and bills.
News First at 9.
Well, today marked a very important day in Sri Lanka's development drive, and that was because the first phase of the Colombo Port Expansion Project was unveiled today.
This was declared open by President Mahinda Rajapaksa, and the Colombo Port Expansion Project will complete its construction work by 2016.
Agreements for the Colombo Port Expansion Project was signed in 2005 under an aid loan facility extended by the Asian Development Bank. The project has an estimated cost of $1 billion. The development project, which commenced in December 2011, equips the Colombo port with a control room that can handle the world's largest vessels. Plans are also underway to construct 3 terminals under the port expansion project, which will have the ability to handle 2.4 million containers annually. It is expected that construction will be completed in 2016. The first phase of the project, comprising of the breakwater and the container terminal, was declared open today.
අපි මේවා කරන්නේ අදටත් වඩා හෙට ඉපදෙන්න ඉන්න දරුවා වෙනුවෙන් අනාගතයක් වෙනුවෙන්.
All of this is being done for the unborn children, for the future, for your children. This will be the foundation for the development of the entire nation. The current income of the port is 40 billion. Our target is to exceed 100 billion by 2020. This development will seem like a miracle only for those who love the country and the children. People who have expectations for the future understand the importance of this. For those who hate us, it will not seem like a miracle. We can be happy today because we have fulfilled the responsibility vested upon us.
නෙවෙයි අපිට අද සන්තෝෂ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මේ රටේ අපිට බාර දුන්න යුතුයකම අපි ඉටු කරයි කියලා.
9.
Acting Magistrate of Malakanda Lloyd Gray conducted the magisterial inquest and the post-mortem examination on the youth who was killed during the clashes that took place in Valivaria recently. 19 persons were injured in this unrest. They are receiving treatment in Gampa, Ragama, Vattaputivala and Colombo National Hospitals. The number of dead owing to the unrest that took place in Rathabaswara recently now stands at 3. One person was killed during the unrest, while 2 more succumbed to their injuries yesterday.
Niranta Pushpakumara, a resident of Udahen Thanna in Gampala, was among those who succumbed to injuries sustained during the unrest in Valivaria. The magisterial inquest was conducted at the mortuary of the National Hospital in Colombo, and the body was later handed over to the Judicial Medical Officer's office for the post-mortem examination. He was an innocent boy. He didn't even harm an animal, but he had to pay with his life. We can't describe this pain. How can I live without my child?
අපි වැදලා අවුරුදු දෙකයි එච්චර කාලයක් නැහැ ජීවිතේ.
It has been only 2 years since we married. We had just begun our life. I have a 1.5-year-old baby. He was the only one to look after me and my mother. He called me and told me that he is hiding inside the Valiveria church. Later when I called him at around 9 or 10, the phone was ringing and he didn't pick up.
ඊට පස්සේ අපේට තායිටතර කෝල් කරවලු ෆෝන් එකේ රිස්ක් ආයේ ගත්තේ නැහැ.
The body of 19-year-old Ravishan Pereira, who also succumbed yesterday to injuries sustained during Thursday's unrest, has been handed over to his family. Ravishan was a resident of Bandarawatha in Madagamuwa, Value area, and was a student of St. Peter's College, Udugampala. He was to sit for his advanced level examination today. The brother of Roshan Chanaka, an individual who was killed during protest staged by workers of the Katunayaka Free Trade Zone a few years ago, also visited Ravishan's home today to pay his final respects. It was my brother Roshan Chanaka who was killed at the Katunayaka demonstrations in 2010. What has happened here is the same. He is also a brother from our school. People asked for water. They didn't ask for an increase in salaries. Neither did they ask for reduced prices. They asked for a basic right. If they are attacked when they protest for basic rights, how can human rights be protected? There has been no justice for the Katunayaka incident. 2 years, 2 months and 4 days have passed. How can we live free in this country?
The Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission initiated its investigation into the water crisis in Ratapaswala and also into the unrest that broke out in areas in Ratapaswala and other villages.
Representatives from the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, the Police, Army, District Secretary and Divisional Secretaries were called to the SLHRC today as part of this investigation. All relevant institutions have been asked to take action to ensure that similar incidents do not occur in the future. There will be a proper investigation. The Defence Minister clearly said that it will be investigated to find out whether the practices of this factory had caused the environmental problem or not. Until it is found out, this factory will be closed. His decision is very clear and direct. The situation in the Valiveria area is now quite normal. There were some unfortunate incidents. The Army Commander has clearly stated that there will be an investigation. All state institutions came here with the exception of 2. We preliminarily discussed 2 incidents. The first was how the acidity of the water increased. The second was the actions of the relevant institutions during the public unrest that broke out there. The Sri Lanka Police, the Army and all other institutions were here. 2 investigations are now underway. Journalists questioned the Human Rights Commissioner on the deployment of the Army to carry out a function of the police. We are taking steps regarding this and we will receive their report in 2 weeks. Following the receipt of this report in 2 weeks, the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission will continue its investigation. We have issued 3 instructions. First is to provide a technical report to find out whether the operations of this factory has caused the water problem or not. They have started that process. Secondly, we have asked for a police report regarding the incident. Thirdly, we have asked the Army to provide a report on their actions within 2 weeks. Additionally, we expect to collect information from all the relevant civil organizations and members of the clergy.
Now, a number of political parties and civil society organizations have commented on the issues that have surrounded Ratapaswala and also the water crisis and especially the unrest that took place in Valiveria recently.
Oh, that's right, Mahina. As I said before, the death toll now stands at 3 following the unrest that took place in Valiveria recently. The National Movement for Social Justice, the Lanka Sama Samaj Party and the Frontline Socialist Party issued communiques in this regard today.
The National Movement for Social Justice notes that the people have the right and a responsibility to bring their requests to the attention of the rulers. The movement points out that such action is in keeping with the fundamentals of democracy, adding that the use of the bullet when solutions are demanded is a blatant destruction of democracy. The communique issued by the movement's national advisor, Venerable Madhulu Abe Sobhitathera, states that while problems should be resolved through peaceful discussions, the dictatorial bullet system should not be used. Issuing a communique, the Lanka Sama Samaj Party condemns the attack on the demonstration, which was based on a water crisis. The communique reads that regardless of whose want the people were killed and oppressed during a crisis, it is an attack on democracy. The LSSP requests the government to conduct a proper investigation into the incident, reveal the wrongdoers to the nation, and ensure justice for the families of the dead and the wounded. The Frontline Socialist Party meanwhile says that it did not participate in discussions held under the auspices of Economic Minister Basil Rajapaksa the day following the unrest in Valiveria. The Frontline Socialist Party reiterates that it will in no way agree with fraudulent discussions convened by the government after it has shot at the people of Bolivaria instead of providing any response to their demands. The Socialist Students' Union meanwhile said that the people of Ratu Pasvilla engaged in this struggle to secure clean water for drinking, bathing and washing, and not as a conspiracy to take arms and topple the government. Issuing a communique, the union says that predetermined attacks on the people is similar to previous malicious attacks carried out by the government. The union notes that it condemns the death of 3 people, including 2 school students, during a public protest demanding clean water.
Parliamentarian Karu Jayasuriya and the convener of the Free Media Movement, Sunil Jayasekara, also commented on the incident that took place in Bolivaria recently.
Let's take a listen to the views expressed by these 2 individuals at media briefings today.
About 40 innocent people have been injured. We visited them.
අපි මේ අය බලන්න ගියා. ඉතින් මෙතෙන්දී අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ මිය පොත්තෙන් කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙයකට පොරක් පාවිච්චි කළයි කියලා.
I think the entire nation is waiting to see who it was that gave the order to respond with bullets to this humane request. Several persons who acted here must be held accountable.
ක්‍රියා කළපු කීප දෙනෙක් අවාග කියන්න ඕනේ.
එතෙන්ට මේ රටේ ජනමාධ්‍යවේදීන් ගියේ එහි පැවතමින් තියෙන තත්ත්වය.
Journalists went to that location only to report on what was going on. Our journalists were chased after and assaulted. Their equipment was destroyed. As media organizations, we severely condemn this entire chain of incidents, from the assault to the killings. The rulers of this country must reveal who it was that gave the order for the army to shoot at ordinary civilians. This kind of situation does not arise in a democratic country. The government must take steps to ensure that all of those who are responsible for the killings and the assaults on journalists are brought before the law and punished.
That, of course, was the convener of the Free Media Movement, Sunil Jayasekara, expressing views on the incident that took place in Bolivaria recently. Dr. Diane Jayatillaka is Sri Lanka's former permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva.
And in an exclusive statement to News First, Dr. Diane Jayatillaka said that the steps taken to control the situation or the unrest that broke out in Bolivaria violated all accepted standards.
A heavily armed military unit had been deployed in the township. And there was no reason to do that. There's no emergency on. There's no invocation of the Public Securities Act. The police would try to disperse the crowd by using batons, tear gas, water cannon, standard crowd control equipment. If that fails, there's another very well-known method, that's using riot guns. What are riot guns? Riot guns are repeater pump shotguns which use 16 gauge or 20 gauge shotgun cartridges, not the 12 gauge which is used to kill animals, but bird shot. This is what's used against birds. It is a scattergun effect. It doesn't kill, but it certainly is quite painful and it stings, and it usually gets the crowd out of the way. Very senior police official, it was a good gesture. He was saluting the cortege of the young boy, the teenager, the student who had been shot dead. I think of the 3, 2 have been shot dead, 2 students. And that was a very good gesture. I listened to this officer speak, and he said they could have used force to disperse the protesters and didn't do that because it was a legitimate protest. It is the people of this country who not only gave their children to the armed forces and their blood, but also pay their salaries. And this is a democratic republic, and that has to be remembered.
Meanwhile, the Janata Vimukti Peramuna took to the streets today. They held a demonstration opposite the Fort railway station against the unrest that took place in Bolivaria and the incidents that unfolded, Shamir, during the demonstration in Bolivaria.
Yeah, witnessing footage that was taken this afternoon by a cameraman opposite the Fort railway station.
They say there was a conspiracy and that there was not 3 but 4 or 5 factions there. What were these factions? Reveal this to the people of Ratu Pasvilla and Bolivaria. The people of Ratu Pasvilla and Bolivaria would like to know this. The people of Ratu Pasvilla know that there weren't numerous factions at their protest.